Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maya Knight, and I'd like to welcome you today to the Planet Retail Net Group webinar in partnership with Oracle NetSuite, where today we're going to discuss how retailers can move beyond loyalty and drill into the levers that they can pull in regards to building and fostering loyalty, customer loyalty, with pricing, personalization, in line with the characteristics of the modern customer today. So we'll be with you for about an hour, so thank you very, very much for joining us. I would like to take you through a quick look at the agenda. So if I just scroll through my page here, there we go. We're going to hear from myself today. I've taken over the moderation role as well as introducing the Planet Retail part of this session today, where I'm going to drill into some of the areas I've just outlined as regards what loyalty is, whether or not it's outdated and how retailers can move beyond it. And why we think retailers should really think about loyalty as a way of helping them abandon cynical discounting, and the best way of doing that, as we'll hopefully see, boils down to embracing the concept of connected retailing. All the research that I'm going to share with you and the findings I'm going to share with you were developed in partnership with Oracle NetSuite, and so about 3/4 of the way through the hour, I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague Kath from Oracle NetSuite, who's going to try and boil down some of the big picture ideas that I'm going to introduce to you with some practical advice in terms of how technology can help and practical ways to get started in terms of moving beyond loyalty. Of course, there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end of the session, so we will try and leave 10 to 15 minutes to get to do that. And so I would strongly suggest you type any questions you have as an audience member into the chat box in the GoToWebinar panel that you should be seeing on your screen alongside our slides. We will get to the questions at the end of both our presentations. So, moving beyond loyalty, what do we really mean by moving beyond loyalty? Well, essentially, what matters in retail hasn't changed. And what you can see here are the top 5 global influencers that shoppers themselves across 14 countries told us were most important to them in terms of influencing them to shop with a retailer. And you can see that there's nothing seismically different than perhaps you would have expected shoppers to tell you 10 years ago, that they want competitive pricing. First and foremost, price is very, very important. Price is king. But broad ranges, convenient location, brands, and trust. Again, essential to the mix there as well, coming in at number 5. But the main thing is that what has changed in the last 10 to 15 years is customers' means of access. Now you can see represented by the blob diagram there that the customer journey is anything but linear anymore and can involve all manner of digital touch points and start and end in any one of those areas. But the thing again, I think that really underpins all of this is that even though digitally enabled technology is really enabling and empowering customers in terms of their means of access to information about products and services and pricing, 90% of sales are still completed in store, but half are now being influenced by digital, and that's the major change. And just to try and illustrate how that's happening, I've brought in some examples here of from left to right. Sprint, the US telco, mobile telecoms retailer, using Pokemon Go last year to lure customers into their stores. We have the example of Rewe Group's Austrian banner Mercer, allowing customers to scan product barcodes and find out more information via their mobiles, and also using the mobile devices in their own customers' hands to send them location-specific coupons via Bluetooth. From the UK, we have the automotive retailer Halfords using fully connected, offering a fully connected click and collect service based on tablets, phones, fixed displays, and as you can see in the picture there, smartwatches that enable sales colleagues to generate a pick list and mark items as collected while roaming a store. And then, just to keep it as global as we possibly can, Indonesia's Alfamart has been pioneering a 3D virtual storefront to sell direct to customers by partnering with a startup called Slingshot Mind Stores, and their 3D virtual storefront is called Alphamind. So you can see here how retailers are really innovating to try and bring digital to bear into what is actually still quite a traditional process of shopping. So with so many new touch points involved, with so many innovative new ways of engaging with customers, what essentially does make a customer loyal? So we as part of that shopper research that I mentioned, we asked customers what makes you loyal. We extracted those top 5, but essentially it boils down to best prices on loved brands, tailored offers, services, and knowledgeable staff. And when we look again from a global perspective, you can see that across the globe, knowledgeable staff who make customers feel valued is a huge driver of loyalty. And in some pockets, such as in the UK and Australia, consistently offering best prices on loved brands, it comes in a very, very close second. So the logic again there is that nothing really is changing. They want the retailers to treat them like valued customers. So hopefully you're starting to get a picture of the layering of very traditional drivers around the shopping process, the shopping journey, and shopping expectations, but that have been radically changed by technology. When we say technology is changing shopping habits, just to focus minds here, we can think about what the impact of digital on retail will be through to 2021. Right now, consensus and research consensus has it that we own about between 4 and 5 devices each. I know I walk with 3 or 4 devices everywhere I go: my work mobile phone, my home mobile phone, my work laptop, and maybe a tablet if I'm traveling. But that's actually going to increase. That's going to increase to 6.6 devices per person. So those devices for accessing all those endpoints and digital touch points are only going to proliferate. As well, online is still going to continue to outstrip store growth. We get asked a lot by retailers, where is online going to top out? And frankly, I don't think anybody knows. But right now, running the estimated forecast figures at a 5-year CAGR, we're saying that online is going to outstrip store growth by about 18% to 17%. But of course, this is leading, as I think you can see in your own businesses, hopefully, to the reconfiguration of range. What do I offer online versus what do I offer in store, and the availability in both channels. And then sales space itself, am I using that space to sell direct to consumers? Am I using it for them to click and to collect products that they maybe have clicked and bought online prior? And then, of course, click and collect is an example of the proliferation of fulfillment options that we're seeing, on top of coming into the store to buy the product there and then, or having it delivered to home. In terms of the impact of digital and technology, it's been really enabling innovation to disrupt. Need I say more than mention the likes of Amazon and Alibaba? And the bottom line when it comes to loyalty and customers is that it's raising expectations. I so often hear customers say that they feel they have more information in the palm of their hands when they walk into a retail store than is available to their store associates. And for retailers, it really is about matching that means of access to information and also knowledge of your customers. And then when you think about it, the most important things that consumers are sharing with us here as regards technology, 59% across the globe are telling us, aggregators across the globe, that they feel technology makes their shopping experiences better. And 46% are not just expecting to be able to transact with retailers or online, but also to get service online. And I think we've seen the advent of live chat in the last few years, and more recently chatbots, to meet that demand. And essentially, they want a more personalized experience tailored to their needs. They recognize that they're exposing a lot of their personal information and data and activity online and potentially in store when they engage with you digitally, and therefore they want to see that data being used to personalize the experience. And in terms of the history that we've had with Oracle NetSuite and bringing this research to bear with you, we found obviously that price is still the premium influencer of spend. So back in 2015, almost 18 months ago now, Oracle NetSuite asked us to look at how price was influencing loyalty. And we asked retailers what percentage of revenue is derived from sales events or discounts, as opposed to those that revenue that might be attributable to loyal customers. And the surprising stat that came out of that just before Black Friday 2015 was quite how much of annual revenue is attributable to markdowns and discounts and sales events. That's 21 to 50% is the majority there. So it was really quite stark that retailers were really having to give up, leaving quite a lot of money on the table potentially through markdowns and discounts, whether or not it was actually an intentional strategic practice or not. So when we say abandoning cynical discounting, what we're saying is drilling down, that retailers should drill down on that percentage of markdowns and try and sell more products at full price. We can see how the customer has been accustomed to getting things at a discount, looking for a bargain where price is the determining factor. And it may arguably be said that retailers have been forced into a race to the bottom line, essentially, with the likes of Black Friday, Singles Day, Amazon Prime Day, as is demonstrated here. And again, borne out by the research we conducted with Oracle NetSuite to show that, surprisingly there, Black Friday has now become the primary discount or sales event for retailers. I mean, just to try and give you some figures around this to really illustrate quite how big the phenomena of sales and discounting events has become. Black Friday accounted for about £1.23 billion revenue in the UK last year, or that's about $1.6 billion. That was up 12% year on year from 2015. Alibaba, serving the far larger Chinese market, made $17.8 billion during Singles Day last year. And Amazon reported around $500 million on its equivalent Prime Day. When we did this research with Oracle NetSuite, we worked out, in accordance with the total amount of sales that retailers make during the year, that they were potentially leaving something like £38 billion alone in the UK on the table in regards to discounts and markdowns. So we say price-based competition is eroding margins and pushing retailers into a race to the bottom line. And when we update that research according to the numbers of the increase in sales events, the increase in total sales revenue attributed to retailers in the UK, that now actually accounts to £40 billion. So the situation is only going to get worse in terms of the amount of money being left on the table. So to balance that, we wanted to also find out, why, what retailers could do to combat that. When we shared this research with retailers, they said, yes, we know this is the case. How can we mitigate margin erosion? How can we reduce this race? How can we avoid this race to the bottom line? So I think it's worth restating here, in order to understand the fundamental tenets of what makes a customer loyal, you need to understand what it is that they're looking for specifically from you. In general, again, we've referenced knowledgeable staff who can treat customers like a valued shopper, but also they are looking for exclusive benefits and perks, and they are looking for familiarity of brand as well, and maybe some advocacy in terms of knowing that their friends and their family also shop there. So understanding and catering to these needs is going to be absolutely key into tapping into loyalty that will help retailers avoid a race to the bottom line and mitigate margin erosion from markdowns. But on the bottom of this graphic here, we also surveyed retailers at the beginning of last year and asked them, how good are you at meeting some of these expectations in terms of understanding and catering to shoppers? 28% of shoppers are telling us they're making a purchase after reading a review, so that brand advocacy stretches beyond friends and family. And 58% are saying that they want to be influenced and rewarded by, for their spend and loyalty, which I think really goes to the heart of the subject that we're here to discuss today. But starkly, only 18% of retailers were extremely happy with their ability to target customers based on their preferences. A couple of examples, I think, of retailers who have really keyed into this and are doing it well are Asia Malls, a property manager of a number of malls in Singapore. They launched a mobile-first rewards platform last summer, and it's based on a virtual mobile loyalty card app, so you don't need to remember your loyalty card, coupled with a responsive website that provides the mall owner and its retailer tenants with data-driven methods of measurement and shopper engagement by using the shopper's engagement via mobile in location. Customers themselves receive personalised and location-based rewards. They can get their balance updates through the app, and they can also receive exclusive member invites and offers. Another really good historical example of a brand that's been quite advanced in terms of their approach to loyalty has been the North Face. They reward qualifying members using an array of experiential rewards, which means they not only reward customers for doing what they love, which given the North Face tends to be outdoorsy, adventurous activities, but they also try and use the channel to communicate with them more intimately on a year-round basis. Multimedia content strategy underpins this, and builds the feeling of a community to keep their target customers engaged. So we're going to look at some other examples like this as we come along, but essentially what we're trying to say is that 21st century loyalty, we can't move beyond loyalty, but loyalty as we know it has changed, and therefore 21st century loyalty must enable retailers to differentiate, to differentiate beyond price, just price. What's going to be absolutely key here, as is evidenced by this quote given to us by one of NetSuite's own customers, is that retailers are aware that the basic loyalty schemes based on cards and points with a monetary redemption value just don't go far enough. This fashion retailer retailer end user of Oracle NetSuite knows that they're up against a really savvy, technically, digitally enabled audience, and so they're looking for insight on the customer and what they're looking for in order to help them understand how best to differentiate and drive that loyalty. So again, it's the central part of this graphic that I'm showing you now restates what we're trying to get to. We're trying to offer the best prices and provide those exclusive benefits that are tailored to customers' needs, and maybe in the form of a reward scheme, in a kind of a virtuous loop. And then at each of the edges of the graphic, I'm showing some of the overlapping technology components that are required to achieve this, required to gain the insight and feed the strategic differentiation that retailers are seeking. Some of the key ones I'll pull out here, I won't go into too much detail, but merchandising is absolutely key. CRM, customer relationship management, is absolutely central. When it comes to providing a reward scheme, you need to have a digital means of promoting that scheme and delivering it. And you have to be able to analyse whether it's whether it's actually successful. And then just a couple of examples of recently very successful loyalty schemes that are doing this well. You have on the left-hand side, you have Best Buy's app, which offers reviews, how-to videos, as well as access to tailored assistance, because of course Best Buy, playing into the consumer electronics space, they have quite high consultative, high ticket sales. And then on the right hand side, you've got Target with its highly successful Cartwheel loyalty app. That also leverages in-store beacons to communicate recommendations and deals through the app to the shopper, rather like the Merkur example I shared with you earlier. It means it also quite cleverly supports digital coupons from brands and manufacturers, allowing shoppers to access a wider range of price-sensitive offers beyond the Target's own ecosystem. And it's actually been so successful that Target recently announced that it was going to integrate the Cartwheel capability back into its core Target app. I would argue that perhaps having the two apps separate in the first place wasn't the best idea, but you can see that they've tried this approach, and it really has worked and is paying dividends, and therefore is something that they're looking to take back into the core of their digital engagement strategy. So hopefully you're starting to get a good picture of what we mean by embracing connected retailing. It means connecting your view of the customer to your execution and basing that strategic execution on your understanding of the customers, the way they like to engage with you, what it is that they're coming to you for, what your USP is, and how you can further differentiate using that USP, that unique selling point. So bringing us back to the Oracle NetSuite research, we revisited that markdown Black Friday survey, and we produced a paper which bears the same name as this webinar, Moving Beyond Loyalty. And we asked Oracle NetSuite to give us a view of what the customers, the retail end users on their platform were doing as regards to fostering loyalty and managing discounts on that fateful Black Friday, to give us a real like-for-like point of comparison. And here you can see 10 retailers, which not only shows the vast gamut of different approaches to capturing customer engagement and sales on that Black Friday, but also the success with which they were able to capture sales across Black Friday, the following Saturday, and then the following Sunday. We deliberately left Cyber Monday out of this, but I think you can see that it's much of a muchness in terms of the success. I think it's fair to say Black Friday was most successful in terms of drove the most success as regards to any of these particular initiatives, but some of them, for example, Retailer 8, Donating Not Giving, saw almost as successful an uplift as those offering 50% off select products. So then there need not necessarily be a requirement to slash 50% off your products if you know that you can get just as much traction off of Black Friday by offering charitable donations. But I would also urge caution, and hopefully have backed this up in the context up to this point, that it really depends on whether or not your customers are suited or attuned to charitable donations, or are very much more price sensitive. One of these customers actually told us that employing such techniques makes customers feel like they're a member of a club, that they belong to a family, and confirmed that they actually will spend more and spend more frequently as a result. So, none of these customers had a loyalty scheme per se as well. I think that's the important important note to make here, and that's one of the reasons why we chose these 10 customers to share their results with you. If you can't if you can't beat the discount events, make the most of them. But I think what we're learning as a result of going through the findings here is that loyalty can be leveraged through price as well, depending on how you choose to use that. And in most cases, particularly when it's allied to a discount event like Black Friday, does involve discounts and pricing. But we have many examples where retailers are thinking outside of the box to offer differentiated approaches to loyalty. We have the UK, the largest example there is the Sparks loyalty scheme offered by Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's is a UK home, clothing and luxury food retailer. And they launched a members club, specifically avoiding the words, using the word loyalty in 2015, despite having actually traded for some 130 years without needing a loyalty scheme. I think that in and of itself speaks dividends. Its Sparks program focuses, rather than on points making prizes, as it were, monetary redemptions, it focuses on exclusive access to new collections, special events, and it also offers points-based discounts. In the top left-hand side of the screen, you have an example of another UK retailer, a grocer in this case, called Waitrose, who in the same year as Marks and Spencer's launched its Spark scheme, launched its Pick Your Own offers for its My Waitrose loyalty scheme members. And the thing that really stands out about this scheme is that it allows members to save 20% on products that they select from a range of up to 1,000, or it was up to 1,000 at the time. I do believe they're trying to expand that range. But it really gives the customer a feeling of personalisation, so that they can select their own products. And then next to the Waitrose Pick Your Own Offers example, we have a picture of Swarovski, the fashion jewelry chain in the US, who had a really interesting case study last year. They already also have a loyalty members scheme called the Swarovski Crystal Society. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Swarovski figurines, but Crystal Society members are really invested in the figurine side of its business. They already receive members benefits that include an annual crystal gift, a subscription to a magazine, and invitations to exclusive events. But interestingly, they decided to take that further, to amplify the effects of that loyalty further by employing a social advocate management platform. And by that I mean it looked at these members' interactions with Swarovski, with the brand, and identified those that were most influential in social media and looked to engage them through targeted activations suggested by the management platform. Just some quick results on that one. They were able to achieve a 500% increase in registrations for their annual Crystal Society event. That in itself resulted in an 80% increase in revenue from previous similar events. And in that one night, they earned $1.4 million. So hugely successful. And just the graphic on the right there is really intended to focus minds as to what retailers should be looking to achieve from 21st century loyalty: relevancy, emotional attachments and connections, a higher level of trust, if you remember what those drivers were on the part of influencers of spend as well for shoppers, as they told us as well. So some really interesting examples there that I think retailers can bring to bear, hopefully bring to bear in their own strategies. And then we start to try and, I think, boil all of this down from a recommendations perspective. We also asked retailers How would you mitigate markdowns? I've spent a lot of time talking about what we think are going to be important. We've broadly referred to it as embracing connected retailing. But when we asked retailers what they feel they need to mitigate margin erosion and build loyalty, they were telling us pretty much the same thing: personalizing their discounts, promotions, localizing offers and promotions if personalization was not possible. In order to do that, a number of them identified more sophisticated merchandising systems, and nearly a third identified a single view of sales, customer, and inventory in order to get that full understanding of what customers are buying from you and why, in terms of the when and the how and into frequency, in order to kind of key into what those loyalty levers might be. Only a sliver said none of the above, so hopefully we were on the right track there. So we advise retailers to right-size their technology investment according to the customer insight they gain and the pricing requirements that their competitive landscape demands of them. As a result, we like to talk about, we've already said, to embrace connected retailing is absolutely key, and by default that would make you as a retailer connected yourself. These are the things that we believe are the key tenets that distinguish the connected retailer, and that is having one single source of truth. Your technology systems, support systems, and operational management systems need to be able to give you as real-time, centralized, and accurate a view of where your sales are coming from, where your inventory is located, and who your customers are. A number of the innovative customer engagement examples I've spoken about involve mobile. Thinking back to the digital shopper in 2021, with the numbers of devices that we will all have, mobile-enabled access to timely, relevant business information is going to be absolutely key. That's on the part of the retailer, but I think it's fair enough to say that exposing that information, exposing what's relevant to the customer of that information to the customer via mobile devices, via the digital touch points and endpoints in their homes and in your stores, is going to become more and more important as well. It also gives retailers a great means of harnessing some of the tenets of loyalty that we've spoken about, eliminating paper-based loyalty schemes and really embedding a brand presence on the handset, on the mobile device, the digital device of the consumer, so that it's there with them 24/7. The more touch points you're able to push this information out to and engage with customers through, the more information, data that you'll get back. And that is why we say in that third point, advanced analytics to support an optimized operational position to maximize efficiency is going to be key here. If you're not maximizing the efficiency of your operations, then you're again leaving money on the table as regards to the markdowns. If you're not right sizing your inventory and your buying and your ranges to what it is your customers are actually looking for, then you are going to inevitably have to mark down the slower moving stock. Advanced analytics is going to be your absolute key and ally to understanding where the inefficiencies are in your business and where there might be a disconnect between what your customers are looking for and what you're actually delivering to them in your offer. I think I've argued the case then for data-driven insight to fine-tune price to customer demand, excuse me. That really allows retailers to play as much as they might want to in these growing global discount events, but also to mitigate the need to play in those events, and also to get involved in price wars, for example, with more loyalty-based initiatives and engagements. And once you have all of that in place, I can only talk about it and make it sound easy. I believe it's really important to make sure that you have systems in place that can support next best action automation. And that might be identifying a customer as they walk into your store and having an engine that can dynamically work out what the best offer is to serve them by whatever means is going to be best. That might be at the checkout as they go to checkout. It might be on the back of a till receipt. It might be via a beacon in their mobile apps. There's a number of different ways that next best action automation can be brought to bear. But personalisation is the one that I see retailers really asking us to key heavily into. The connected retailer checklist is just just the tip of the iceberg. It's just us trying to absolutely boil down to the basic tenets of what that technology investment should look like. But that technology investment, just to restate, should always be right-sized to what your customer is looking for and what your optimal price position is going to be. It actually starts to create a bit of a virtuous loop that if you understand the customer, you can price more accurately, more sensitively to their needs, hopefully avoiding the need for markdowns, hopefully building loyalty and feeding even more insight into those systems and further refining your retailer offer. So with that, hopefully I've exposed a number of different ideas there for you. I've sprinkled in a few examples as well to try and bring it to life. But I'd like to now bring in my my colleague, my co-presenter today, Kath Bramfield. Kath is Principal Solution Consultant for Retail for Oracle NetSuite. She's been very much involved in shaping the research and the findings that we've shared with you today. And Kath, I'd like to hand over to you now to share with our audience how technology can help in a much more granular way, drilling down to practical ways that retailers can get started in terms of moving beyond loyalty. And before I do that, I shall just remind you that we'll be moving to questions and answers once Kath's done, and I would prevail upon the audience to please use the chat box again in your GoToWebinar panel to send us your questions, and Kath and I will do our best to answer them after Kath is finished. So with that, Kath, I will hand over to you. Thank you, Kath.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kath speaking. So the research highlighted that a central system of record is key to effectively managing price and promotions. And there's really three key areas of that I'd like to highlight today. Firstly, I'm sitting here looking at my customer master data, and during every customer shopping journey, today they're moving across both online and offline channels before making a purchase, and they'll always buy in more than one channel. So it's critical that we've got a central order management system that's giving us a single real-time view of that customer's activity. And if I just page down here, you can see that I've got a real-time view, everything the customer's ever purchased from me by channel. So you can see here, for example, this was an online web sale shipped out of a retail DC. Here I've got some in-store purchases. If I page down a little bit further, you'll find some buy online and pick up in-store purchases as well. And that visibility is absolutely key to my being able to serve that customer better and make that customer feel loyal. So if I just jump now to looking at how that would look in store, let's just say that Mark pops into the shop one day. This is the shop he most commonly shops in. I've got total visibility in the shop of everything he's ever bought from me. I can see all the returns. I've also got access and visibility of any customer service issues he's been having, so that I can see in the shop exactly what's going on with this customer and can therefore treat him appropriately. And actually, if I page down a little bit further, you can see I can also see he's actually happened to have abandoned the shopping cart online. I can see what he left in that shopping cart, and as he's engaging with me, either he might start that conversation. I was looking at this jacket online, I'd really like to try it on before purchasing it or touch it, or through my engaging with him, we can use that as a way of saving that sale and stopping him going somewhere else and buying something similar somewhere else. But equally, because I've got this visibility of these purchases he's made from me, irrespective of the channel that they were made through, let's just say he's walked into the store. This is an online purchase he made earlier in the week. He wants to return it. He's forgotten to bring the receipt with him. Obviously, if he had the receipt, I could simply just scan the receipt to enact a return. But because I've got the access online, I can very simply pull it up, make sure it's the same item, and just click on the return button here, enabling the customer to really interact with me however he wants in the easiest way possible for him, rather than me forcing him to do it one particular way. So it allows me to deliver a really seamless shopping experience to that customer, irrespective of the channel he's shopping in and irrespective of the channel he's returning in. So we can do a buy online, return to store, we can do buy online, pick up in store, and also fulfill from store if we've run out of stock, say in a central distribution centre. I go back to my main system. I'm going to change, here I'm logged into the system as a customer service rep. If I now change and go in and look more from a merchandise manager's perspective, where I'm now looking more at items and inventory, the second thing we really need in order to effectively manage price and promotions is fantastic visibility of inventory, and to do that we need centralized inventory management functionality, because that will help us better manage stock and reduce the need for mass markdowns. And here you can see, for example, I've got a view, I'm looking at a particular item, a Salida backpack. I can see each of the different colours, exactly what I've got in each of my inventory locations. So here we can see I've not got very much of the grey one. I've got none on hand in the DC. I've got none on hand in any of the stores. I've got one on hand here, but that's actually reserved for a customer who's going to be coming and picking it up, and therefore actually there's none more available to sell. But I've got plenty of stock of the other colour. So that allows me as the merchandise manager to really get visibility as to what's happening and make intelligent decisions on that basis. This might be an item I could get hold of some more stock, it might not, but either way I might decide to start pushing this colour, because that's obviously not selling so well, in place of this one. But it gives me that history in combination with the order history to make better decisions. So for example, if I have got slow selling stock, say in one store, rather than marking it down, I might choose to transfer it to another store where it's selling better. Or if I've got slow sellers, such as this one here, then maybe I should start doing a targeted marketing campaign, not necessarily a markdown, but just in terms of an upsell or a cross-sell from something else where we've seen propensity to buy, to allow me to try and sell it at the best price possible to get rid of the stock before going straight to a markdown process. And the store's got exactly that same visibility. So if they're out of stock of a particular item, they can get a really quick view as to where that stock is, if there is stock available in another shop, or if the stock is available centrally. That means that they can save the sale by ordering it on behalf of the customer, either for the customer to come and collect from the store on another day after it's been delivered, go to a different shop to pick it up, or even have it shipped to the customer's home directly. And the third area I wanted to highlight, and again I'm going to change now and look more at a marketing role. With this rich order and inventory data, we can use that data to really engage customers with personalised communication, personalised promotions and offers. So for example, if I go and look here, for example, all I've done is a really simple search where I've got customers, members of my loyalty scheme, where they're prepared to share personal information with me, and I certainly do this personally with a couple of beauty brands where I'm a loyal shopper and a member of the loyalty scheme. Things like, you know, a birthday offer, where rather than, you know, doing price promotions off particular items, use the loyalty scheme rather than to collect points and get discounts, use the loyalty scheme to do like a birthday offer. So in this instance, I'm planning my August birthday campaign, and I've just done a quick search that says show me all the customers who've got a birthday in August, and you can see here I've only got 2 customers who've got a birthday in August, but then I can generate a personalised campaign saying, dear James, dear Susan, happy birthday, you know, here's £5 off for you to come in store or go online and buy yourself something special for your birthday. And that's the kind of personalised offer that's, with the right data available, is really easy to achieve, because you've actually got the intelligence, the insight to be able to target those campaigns very, very precisely. And really just to finish off, if I go back and just do a final finish look at the customer master again, and we'll just go back and look at the same customer we looked at before. I'm just going to search for that customer now. It was Mark Jameson. And just go drill back into that customer's master record. We can hold any level of information we want to against that customer master. So if I just go and look at my marketing tab here, you can see as well as his birthday, I can record purchasing habits that I've observed. So this customer, for example, likes to buy new stuff, so new in-store offers would be particularly beneficial to this customer. He doesn't buy on markdown typically, so there would be no point in me marketing to him with a markdown offer, because those sorts of offers aren't effective for him. So I can track that at a fairly high level or very granularly to then start collecting intelligence about customers and their purchasing habits to allow me to then drive campaigns. And if I actually then drill into the campaigns that have been pushed out to this customer, I've also then got the ability to actually see what sort of campaigns worked, where they resulted in purchases, where they didn't work. Because that obviously is not just the campaign I'm making, but the mechanism I'm using to communicate with him that will ultimately have the best results. So with that, just a really quick whiz through the kind of very high level view as to some of the things we need in the background to enable customer loyalty and, you know, to move away from just mass discounting on price. I'd like to hand back to Maya. So I'm just going to change presenter back to Maya, and then Maya will pick up and take over in terms of handling questions.
Thank you, Kath. Yes, thank you. That was really, really good. We have a question here. Before I do that, actually, sorry, Kath, just to highlight the fact, as I've referenced through the discussions that we've both had today, the fact that there is some exclusive research that you and I, on behalf of Planet Retail and Oracle NetSuite, have developed that can be accessed through the research featured in the webinar via a white paper. And that white paper shares the same name of as this webinar. And NetSuite is going to, Oracle NetSuite is going to share this white paper with you as an attendee following the webinar. So should you have any questions or any further queries, NetSuite will be in touch, and by all means please do contact me as well at Planet Retail if you have any further questions. But in terms of questions coming out of the audience now, we've got about 10 minutes left to go. One question that's come through has been that retailers, I think they was referencing that final slide in terms of what retailers felt they themselves could do to move beyond sort of traditional forms of loyalty, and that was around merchandising systems as being emerging as really quite important, and how we would use them to foster loyalty. I think, Kath, you were able to show some practical examples there, and if that's all right with you, I'd like to come back to you to maybe put a bit more detail around how the specific merchandising functionality that you illustrated, that you kind of hinted at as well, can also foster loyalty. But I would suggest, to kick us off in terms of answering that question, that understanding exactly the combination of products that or services that your particular most highest valued and most frequently visiting customers are looking for, and pre-bundling those together, packaging them up, making it as easy to shop with you as possible, is going to be absolutely key here. Making sure that your merchandising is as competitive as possible in that sense by means of how attractive it is. I think I'm thinking back also to some of those basic tenets. Does it elicit an emotional connection? Is it extensible and consistent across channels via a mobile app, or via when you walk into the store or you visit the e-commerce website? I think these things are going to be absolutely key with merchandising, and that's why getting it absolutely right, potentially moving away from ad hoc spreadsheet-based systems is really starting to make merchandising rise up the strategic agenda for retailers. Kath, I don't know, did you have any other thoughts to add on that one? How specifically merchandising systems could be used to foster loyalty?
Thanks, Maya. I suppose I would have used the same example you gave, actually, which is what I've seen work really successfully, is where retailers are combining or kitting items together. So, and perhaps, you know, making an offer at the kit level rather than the individual item level. So you're encouraging a bigger basket of spend in return for, you know, a different price at the kit level. I think also, just more generically, not so much to do with the technology, but I think it's also really important that retail and merchandising work together to decide on the offers, because both have got quite a unique perspective on the same problem. And I think a lot of the retailers that I've worked with in my 30 years experience, they do tend to be quite separated from one another. So I think as much as the technology is important, it's also very much about, you know, enabling conversations between retail stores and the merchandising team to get feedback both ways in terms of what's working and what isn't. Back to you.
Thanks, Kath. Yeah, I agree. I think just from what you said there, it focused my mind on what we're seeing in the grocery space at the moment. I think we're seeing a lot of meal kits. Interestingly, I heard a gentleman from Google UK speak recently, and he said that there are something in the range of 15 million food recipe searches in the UK alone on a daily basis, and unsurprisingly, the frequency of these searches peaks at around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just as people are thinking about going home. What should I cook for dinner? And to me, it strikes me as a great opportunity there, if you're a food or grocery retailer, to take the guesswork, take the legwork out of food shopping for consumers. They're obviously looking for inspiration. We're also seeing the likes of HelloFresh and Gusto coming up as independent e-commerce, home delivery based systems as well, that take that guesswork away. But as a result of these small independents growing market share, I'm increasingly seeing the bigger retailers trying to do the same thing. And I think even if it's not actually bundling the products together, it could be as simple as making sure that your recipes are as engaging as possible, are consistently available across all channels, that maybe at the shelf edge you're incentivizing customers to buy another product that complements the product that they're looking at so that they can build a recipe out of it. And I think the benefit there for the retailer is that they, in the minds of the consumer, they've taken some of the effort out of making the decision. And let's face it, as shoppers, we are spoilt for choice nowadays. And I think shoppers are really looking to retailers to help them curate the choices that they have. And that's whether or not it be by the means of access to product selection, browsing and product discovery, or to actually making a decision between comparisons as well, helping them, particularly from a retailer standpoint, make comparisons from brand to brand. Got one last question here I think we've got time for, and that really feeds into my last comment about sort of retailers going above and beyond the brands. I think brands that I love came out as a really strong influencer of retailer spend amongst the shoppers. And I would say, yes, absolutely, retailers can claim and or foster the same loyalty as brands, as the question that's come through asks. Increasingly, we're seeing retailers looking to own more of the end-to-end relationship, that perhaps offering, let's say, private label. There's been news in the press this week of a report showing how private label investment on the part of retailers has increased exponentially over the past few years. And I think that to the point that we've been discussing today about pricing versus loyalty, not that they're directly opposed to each other, that hopefully we've made the case that they are quite complementary, but that by pulling on that private label lever, they're able to beat the brands on a pricing perspective and then also offer everything to the consumer that they'd want in one place, over and above what an individual brand could offer in one category or with a selection of ranges, for example. So yes, absolutely, I think retailers can sort of take brands on at their own game. I think equally we're seeing brands wanting to understand what makes customers loyal to them. And so in my work, I work with a lot of brands who are looking at the direct-to-consumer phenomena, and you're seeing some direct-to-consumer transactional websites come up there as well. I don't know if Kath wanted to add anything from a technology standpoint there, particularly when it comes to customer relationship management and owning the customer relationship. I know it hasn't come up as a question, Kath, but final comment to you. Is there anything you'd like to add, really, before I close the webinar? I'd like to just give you final chance to add any final thoughts, if not on that, anything else that we've discussed.
No, I think the customer relationship management is the key to all of this, really, Maya. As you know, we've brought out quite a lot of different examples during the course of today. That without that single view of the customer, it's really very hard to make intelligent decisions. And you know, the key to moving beyond loyalty and away from just mass discounting is really to have that interactive, intelligent view of the customer, so that you can really hone the message down to individual people's preferences, to really target the message correctly.
Great, thank you so much, Kath. Thank you for your time, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. I look forward to joining again soon, but thank you for your attention this time. All the best, everybody. Goodbye.